Hello, and thanks for tuning into my video. I'm Heffy G, and you know me. Today we're going to be talking about Burnout Paradise Remastered, a game about being a burnout in paradise. Just in case you didn't know, this game is actually the best racing game ever created. So if you clicked on the video because you wanted to leave a comment about how Burnout Paradise is awesome and I suck, guess what, buddy? Welcome to Clickbaitville, population U. Because you see, I actually love this fucking game. If I had to pick a video game best man at my video game wedding, it would probably be Burnout Paradise. It's a racing game that at its core is about pure, unadulterated, fast car going boom joy. Forza Horizon may accurately simulate the effect of wind on the alternator of a 1996 VW Corrado, and let me tell you, viewer, that perks my nipples right the fuck up. But Burnout Paradise lets me crash through an open-world vertically built city at like 300 miles an hour in a fake floating Back to the Future DeLorean. You almost can't even compare the two. In this video, I'm going to talk about what I think made Burnout Paradise the video game industry darling that it is today. And I'm also going to talk about how EA fucked up with their most recent re-release of the game. Because let's be honest, Burnout Paradise Remastered kinda sucks. Burnout Paradise was a big step. Before it got picked up by Electronic Arts, the Burnout series was a mid-level budget racing game series developed by Criterion Games, a British game studio, and published by Acclaim. Remember Acclaim? Yeah, me neither. The first game in the series got shit on pretty hard by the critics at the time, but Burnout 2 Point of Impact was a decent next step in the franchise, and the publications expected better from the next installment. Burnout 3 was a big step for the franchise, but not before Acclaim went the way of the dodo and EA became Criterion's stepdad. What I didn't mention is that Criterion was sort of a big deal because they had developed the immensely capable Renderware engine, the game engine that pretty much ran the 6th generation of consoles. EA knew that their newly acquired stepkid was a prodigal child, so when the time came for the development of Burnout 3, EA gave them a nice fat check to work with. The rest is, as they say, history. Burnout 3 Takedown and Burnout Revenge are still considered to be some of the greatest arcade racing games ever made, full stop. Criterion built up enough credit with EA to be allowed a free reign with their big jump to the 7th generation consoles. They were still going to make a Burnout game, but it was going to be completely different from every other one. They were making a Burnout game with no courses, just pure, refined open world racing. When I was a kid and read this information in my Game Informer, I almost shit my little pants. I loved open world games ever since I was playing GTA at way too young of an age, and now I'd be able to crash my cars in a huge open world city? Fucking awesome. The switch to open world did bring a few changes, mostly to the car's physics. Older Burnouts had players constantly moving down a predetermined course with barely any turning, so Paradise's revisions added a ton of heft and weight to the vehicles and made them really fun to toss around corners and pull 180s in. The added heft also makes it pretty easy to lose control sometimes, and that of course brings focus to the amazing crashes. I'm a broad strokes kind of guy, so the technical accomplishments of these crashes elude me, but even a layman can appreciate how dynamic these accidents are. Even if you can't appreciate the visual delight of the crashing metal spectacles, you can just sit there in total envy of how much fun the Foley guy must have had sampling all these sounds. Hey, just imagine some dude sitting in a junkyard somewhere smacking cars with a big fluffy microphone. Good for him. Burnout Paradise was a huge step forward, not only for Criterion and EA, but also gaming as a whole. Before Paradise City was a thing, there were plenty of open world games, but there were only a handful of actually memorable locations, like Vice City and Springfield from The Simpsons Hit and Run. But the Burnout series changed that when they introduced See, this right here is where I'd be playing some real Guns N' Roses if YouTube wouldn't throw me out a window for doing so. Paradise City is not a real place. Its existence is literally impossible from a city planning perspective. Like, do you know how fucking sued Paradise City's government would be for leaving car weight sustaining ramps just lying all over the place? No. This city's true strength comes from the fact that it cannot exist in real life. Criterion didn't have to bother with assuring the city's train system had proper stops. Just slap a fat fucking ramp to that sucker and make sure it's fun to drive on. Everything in Paradise is done to the effect of giving the gamers a good time. There's ramps all over the place, and dozens upon dozens of routes to take throughout the city to get you where you need to go. This game has no courses to race on per se, but each finish line is designed with a network of different routes leading up to it, and players are free to pick whatever one they please. A simple rubber banding AI ensures that whatever road you pick, you're going to be in the thick of some chaos, and allowing the player to forge their own way through the career ensures that everyone's Burnout experience is tailored to their strengths. Every traffic light in Paradise is a different event, and the only goal in the game is to keep stacking up wins until you've beaten everything in the city. There's no story, there's just you, your car, and the city for you to frolic in. It is pure, refined arcade racing. This is the kind of shit that people fill syringes with and sell in different industries. That was a joke about drugs. Did you get that one? The city of Paradise is a paradise. Nobody's in these cars, so crash into any of them, right? The only thing on your mind while racing should be, holy shit, I'm having fun. DJ Atomica awkwardly interrupts the game's awesome soundtrack to let you know that you're not the only dude burning around the city, and everywhere you look you see stunt routes and secret areas to explore. It's almost overwhelming the amount of stuff that you can do in PC, but with such a simple gameplay core, it just ends up being really addicting. I play through Burnout Paradise once a year at least, and it just holds up so well. Every time you press down on the boost button and the car lurches forward, not like it would in real life with an overperforming engine, no. Like, when you press a button, it's willing your car to go forward ever faster. Man, that shit just feels good. Naval yards, ranches, country clubs, observatories, you have no qualms with these trivial monuments. When you play Burnout Paradise, you give up your human shell and adopt your purest form. Your skin strong and oblique like metal, and your veins pure and filled with gasoline. You venture ever forward into the expanse of racing nirvana. And then Avril Lavigne's girlfriend comes on and ruins your fucking flow.
Yeah, I'll put this on. It's on random.
With that dig at Avril Lavigne out of the way, I want to talk about Burnout Paradise's objectively great soundtrack. And yeah, I know, music taste is subjective, but Burnout Paradise's soundtrack is just that good. We'll go ahead and start with how the tone of the soundtrack was decided ahead of time during the concept stage. From the beginning, Guns N' Roses' Paradise City was decided upon as the game's theme song, and early 90s and 2000s alternative rock was decided upon as being integral to the tone of the city. If you look at Criterion's past, they show to have a strong musical lean in all of their projects, from the groovy Burnout Takedown and Revenge soundtracks to the haunting orchestration by Michael Giacchino and Chris Tilton for 2006's Black. God, why don't people ever talk about 2006's PS2 era first-person shooter Black? That game was the shit. Every song on this soundtrack gives the vibe that it was handpicked, including Avril Lavigne, by some EA executive that picked it because it was famous at the time. From Alice in Chains' wood jamming while you race a sunset in a speedy bike, to fight music for the fight blasting while you're weaving between subway platform supports, these songs click. If they didn't, then this game probably wouldn't have been as big, and I wouldn't be writing this video essay about a 13-year-old racing game. Music is very friggin' integral to the success of a game, a lot more than people think. I bet if you think about your favorite video game right now, one of the first things you're going to reminisce about is a song, right? Zelda's Windmill Song, Halo's Hymns, that really, really creepy, catchy tune from Bioshock Circus of Values. I remember reading one time that humans are able to acutely remember musical melodies longer than any other form of memory aside from nostalgic smells. Citation needed. So it's almost as if Criterion knew that associating classic music stuff like Guns N' Roses and Avril Lavigne to its already awesome car-going oh no, don't die, I'm calling the ambulance. Okay, man, thanks for calling me the ambulance, I'm not gonna die anymore. Then it would just multiply its awesomeness factor even more. So they just kept putting awesome stuff into this magnum opus of a racing game, already filled with... There's this dude I've been watching on YouTube lately called Frank Stevenson, and I really hope I'm pronouncing that right. He's a supercar designer by trade, and he goes on YouTube to share his thoughts on fictional video game cars. Mr. Stevenson, if you by chance ever get the time to check out the cars in Burnout Paradise and give your thoughts, that would be super cool. But spoiler alert, he's probably gonna think they're all friggin' awesome. See, the thing is that like Paradise City itself, the cars that inhabit it don't have to abide by silly real-world concepts like carbon footprints or catalytic converters. They just have to look like they'll eat you if you stand too close to them. These cars look mean, and they also feel mean to drive. This is a game about vehicular manslaughter, and just like Call of Duty doesn't send you to war with a hunting shotgun, Burnout doesn't ask you to race with an economy car. Your first car is the Hunter Cavalry, a car that looks like what would happen if Chevy, Ford, and Dodge had a dirty gangbang in an alley behind an IHOP, and the child of this open-air bang went on to cure cancer. The Cavalry is a cool-ass whip, and they only get more and more badass from there. This isn't Forza. I mean, there's some mean-looking sports cars, but this game has every kind of hoopty under the sun. Vans, donkmobiles, sports coupes, sedans. Burnout as a franchise has always been about a pure, unfiltered love for all things vroom, without a lot of consideration for the details. These cars look, sound, and drive mean, but under all the aggression, the point of it all is to have fun, whether that's carving corners in a Tempesta or plowing through traffic in an Inferno van. This game has what you need. Not to mention the bikes. Oof, dude, I almost got through this whole video without talking about the bikes. Added post-launch, the Paradise bikes are a collection of two-wheeled speed machines that are still amongst the most well-animated motorcycles I've seen in any game, period. Every vehicle in this game is intricately modeled inside and out, particularly since given the nature of the game's crashes, you might actually get to see your car's alternator. This game had love put into it up until and past its release. Those motorcycles I was praising weren't added until well after the game's release, because since Paradise was on the new 7th generation of consoles, it had access to the internet for all sorts of stuff, like hotfixes, and... When Burnout Paradise first launched, it had no option to restart a race. There was one time of day, midday, and no sort of weather dynamics. The bridge leading to Big Surf Island was just a big wall, and DJ Atomica showed up once a week to punch you in the dick. Paradise was just completely different from its actual final form on launch day, and nobody knew a thing. There were so many things introduced in updates after the game first released, and for a lot of kids that grew up on consoles with no PC for myself, this was the first time we saw a game change so dramatically over time. They added new cars, motorcycles, a day and night cycle, and multiplayer goodies all throughout the game's lifespan. We didn't know it then, but we were getting the absolute best out of the games as a service model with none of the bullshit. Oblivion's horse armor got some real bad slack back in the day, so a lot of major publishers were too freaking scared to put microtransactions into the games, so we were riding a really good high back then. Criterion's continued support of the game at the time did a lot to cement the value of Burnout Paradise in a lot of gamers' eyes, and between the game's relaxed online mode and redonkulous amount of challenges to complete in single player, the game had the legs to stick around on a lot of top 10 lists over the years. Yeah, so the point of a remaster isn't to improve a game's graphics, but mostly to ensure that it works on a new generation of hardware. I get that. The thing is though, Burnout Paradise doesn't. So, I bought a PS4 controller to play on PC with. I preferred D-pad to the dookie one the Xbox One controller has, and honestly I just really wanted to start getting into my Tony Hawk combo groove again. It's 2021, and most modern PC games have support for it natively, so whatever, right? Cool beans. Burnout Paradise Remastered does not. The whole point of re-releasing it is to get it on PS4 and Xbox One. We all know this. But on PC, there's no PS4 controller support? That got me wondering what else got half-assed during this remaster. Like, I'll admit, the graphics are a little cleaner and sharper compared to the original PC release, but I gotta be honest, the whole thing just feels a little too safe. Like, in fact, because I have literally no formal education about game development, I'm just gonna go ahead and make the claim that they just copy-pasted the original Burnout Paradise PC port and sold it as a remaster. Like, look, Burnout as a franchise has been gone way too long for them to just put a soulless re-release out there and call it a day. There's some racing games out there that instantly chub up some dogs through mere mention of their names. Midnight Club, Project Gotham Racing, Tokyo Extreme Racer, and yeah, the Burnout series. It's almost insulting that this game only seemingly got re-released as part of EA's remastering of the Need for Speed franchise. Like, honestly, that's just some old bullshit. This game had made major strides forward for gaming as a whole, and I think that Burnout Paradise deserved more than a remaster. It deserved an Insane Trilogy-style reboot. Paradise still looks really good from over a decade ago. How hard could it have been to toss in some new cars, maybe a new section of the city to crash around in, maybe a new game mode or two? Criterion had plans to introduce a bunch of features to Burnout Paradise before EA decided to pull funding. Why not introduce some of the unused concepts in a proper remaster? Call me crazy, but I really want to crash some Burnout boats! Okay, I'm ranting. Look, I know I'm complaining about a 2-year-old re-release of a 13-year-old game, but it's the internet, okay? Where the hell else am I gonna whine about this? My ex stopped picking up my phone calls, and my landlord said she's gonna evict me. Thanks for watching, everybody!